probably 3 feet higher than it was last night, just at base level. And then with all this rain, the Venetian Causeway, which is a low-lying causeway, some of the views from high rises around it show that it is almost underwater. Water is just really the dangerous, life-threatening issue on Miami Beach right now, be it at the marinas or around the coastal areas or around the roadways. And the double whammy on the roadways, really, falling trees and the power lines. These are not neighborhoods where the lines for FP&L are buried. They're all up. You can see power lines on every road. So when trees come down and take power lines with it, that is just a recipe for disaster. No way to tell whether the lines are live. Since there are so many power outages, chances are they're not at the moment, but that's not something anybody, of course, wants to ever think about. So it feels like we are in the thick of something. The gusts have been strong enough to blow small people over. And it's a very dangerous time to be out. I know that the command staff and the emergency operations and first responders are, as we've been telling you, based at Mount Sinai Medical Center in their emergency operations center that they've set up. First responders stopped responding to anything at about 7:30 this morning. The conditions, that's when they just got impassable and dangerous even for first responders with the proper vehicles. So, Lori Calvin, right now, anyone who might find themselves in trouble on Miami Beach might be in a really bad situation. So anyone watching this or listening in the vicinity, stay high, stay dry. Plenty of the homes, older homes, are concrete. In these conditions right now, a properly secured home should be a very safe place, and anybody watching or listening on Miami Beach and the environs, best to stay there. Yeah,
perhaps on battery-powered radio, considering that many of the residents, as you just said, are out of having some sort of power outage right now. Glenna, we'll speak with you in just a moment. And speaking of those power outages, we have the latest numbers now from FP&L.
In Broward County, the outages have reached up to 488,000. In day, they've come down a touch. They're now at 726,000. So these numbers do fluctuate. There you see 726,000 customers. And in Palm Beach County, we're getting our first numbers out of Palm Beach County now as this storm begins to make its way north. 227,000 customers without power in Palm Beach County.
And to hear that much of Miami Beach without power right now, so tough for so many people, and you may in fact be listening to us on the radio, and we will do our very best to make sure that you know the numbers that you need to call FP&L, and also any updates we get from FP&L in terms of when they are going to be able to come out and restore your power. We'll of course pass that on to you.
And right now we have a chance to check in Coral Gables. Janine Stanwood is right there as the worst of this is making its way from south to north now. Janine, what are you experiencing? Janine, we have your signal. If you can hear us, please go ahead.
Oh, you have me. Hi, sorry about that, you guys. Was trying to establish a signal here. Yes, right now we are in the Coral Gables area. I've stepped out of the way, and you can see there in the distance just the gusty winds, and that is an awning that we saw that fell off from the awning of a storefront, and it came right off, and now you can see it's just sort of starting to tumble down the street. There's a reason why authorities say that this is not the time for people to be out, because of things like that. That can certainly become a projectile. And then down there, you see there, it just looks like a little bit of debris on the street, but those appear to be either roof tiles or maybe, I don't know, some sort of planter that came off from a top balcony of this structure. And so certainly if you're walking, if you're driving, I mean, that would probably crack your windshield. So definitely right here in the Coral Gables area, it's windy. We're seeing sporadic wind gusts, and the wind gusts are causing some debris to fly, and it's just not a safe situation. Where we are, of course, we're being safe. We've got a concrete structure that we are under, but all morning long and all into the afternoon now, we've just been seeing these gusts of wind. And there it goes. There's that awning. It's depending on the way the wind shifts. The awning has just been sort of tumbling around. At one point we saw it go airborne. Yeah, the wind. So there you go. Here's another gust that is starting up again. And I think probably because a lot of the wind, a lot of power in this area has been knocked out. So if you have any friends or family that live in the Coral Gables area, there's a good chance that they are without power right now. In fact, you can't hear it because it's in the distance, but in this downtown Coral Gables area where we are off Miracle Mile, there is a hum in the air, and that is likely from the generators from some of the hotels in this area. So a lot of the more major hotels, they've got generators up, so they're able to get power to some of their main common areas. But that's the situation here. But a lot of this area, we can tell you, without power. We were actually here, if you're familiar with the Hillstone restaurant, it's right on Miracle Mile. We were actually watching, it had its lights on inside, and then about an hour ago we saw the lights flicker and then they went off. What do you want me to show? Oh, the traffic lights. Yeah, the traffic lights, those are off as well. And again, another reason not to be out, not to be driving around, because the traffic lights are not working. So it's definitely a hazardous situation here in the Coral Gables area. At this point, we're not really seeing any flooding or big standing water. The issue here is the wind, and it's the lack of electricity. And of course, in any of these areas, any of these business districts where you've got awnings, you've got trash cans, you've got planters and plants, you may start seeing things flying around and they're projectiles, and it's just not safe. I mean, boy, we've just seen some signs flapping around in the wind, and who knows how long that bolt or screw is going to last before one maybe gets loose and the thing starts flying off. So, Lori, Calvin, that's the situation here in the Gables. Just a lot of wind, some gusts and some rain. So if you have family in this area, at least at this point, if you're not able to watch us, but if you can hear us, definitely windy, definitely not a good time to get outside.
Yeah, well, you're going to be seeing that for some hours to come here. And Janine, we are getting reports of a down power line in Plantation. Yeah, I just saw the minivan go right behind you. Of a down power line in Plantation that has caught fire. We're going to have much more on that as soon as we can turn that video around and show it to our viewers. But as for you, earlier you showed us how there was a transmitter that caught fire and blew.
Calvin, I'm losing your audio just a little bit. Ask me that one more time.
About the transmitter that you showed us earlier. Talk to us about where that was and what you know about that incredible video that you showed us.
Of transformers. Are you asking about transformers?
Yeah, the transformer, yes.
Yes. And in fact, last night and into today, we have heard the boom. And at one point we were wondering what it was. And then, of course, it becomes very obvious. Transformers have been blowing since last night and into today. And, there comes another wind gust. So, yes, we've heard the transformers blow. In fact, you see the video. There's video of a transformer blowing. And so that's definitely an issue here in the Coral Gables area. And I don't know if we have that other video, too, of Gables by the Sea. That's an issue of, that's some flooding that can happen. So
we're seeing it now.
We're here. Thankfully, these are not coconut palms, but, we're seeing palm fronds and all sorts of things blowing away. In fact, my photographer and I, Bill Thomas and I, we're taking cover so nothing comes blowing at us. But that is the situation here in the Gables and along Miracle Mile, which is thankfully, it's for the most part, aside from the one or two cars that we're seeing, it's a ghost town.
Coral Gables is pretty protected right there, just inland enough. Janine, thanks so much. And that video of yours was incredible. Boats, the docks are completely underwater. The boats look like they're one.
And by the way, I don't know if you guys are still trying to talk to me. I cannot hear you. I've got a radio and a baggie, and it's because some of our communication is down. So I'm not able to hear you right now. But I've got a radio and a baggie, so when I'm in this structure, it's a little bit hard to hear you. I'm going to send it back to you, though. And
okay. Janine, thanks so much. Those are just some of the conditions folks are dealing with, but nothing worse than what Madeline Wright has discovered for us. And you see this video. Yeah. I mean, this is Brickell Avenue, folks. The 100 block as you're looking down toward the Four Seasons, down toward the major hotels. This is on the left there.
The Argentinian restaurant that is on the right side. The name of it does not come to mind. Oh, wow.
It's almost like you're standing right there by Capitol Grill, and you are looking south on Brickell Avenue, folks, and then Brickell Key would be off to your left. I mean, this is Brickell Avenue. The flooding, the waters, this was about an hour ago, too. It was up to Madeline's knees, and then beyond, it started rising incredibly fast. And you see those gusts of wind. I mean, storm surge, Mother Nature is really at work.
Yeah, JW Marriott down the street there. There is a brewery over to the left. Yeah, this area is very trendy, but right now, this is hard to believe that this is happening in this area because this is all the storm surge that we've been hearing about so much. And we'll have a lot more coming up on that with our meteorologists who are looking over their maps and all of that. But right now, you can join us on the radio if you are listening, and there are several options that you have.
Jot them down in case one station doesn't work for you. You can get to another. We know we're kind of the lifeline right now. We're just happy you're tuned in with us. We have several radio partners, 5 of them out there. 790 The Ticket, 101.5 Light FM, 104.3 The Shark, 102.7 The Beach, and Pirate Radio in the Keys. We are simulcasted right now almost completely. Yesterday they were bringing in some music and hitting us at the top of the hour. But right now, this is all the information people need. And we are here to carry it through with you. We'll be here for the duration because this storm is a long duration.
It is a process. Yeah, this is not going to end in the next couple of hours. We're talking this is going to extend overnight and into Monday morning, especially for the Keys and for folks who live in Broward, Miami-Dade County, southwest Miami-Dade. You're seeing a lot of the bad weather in Florida City, Kendall, Cutler Bay, areas like that. You are seeing a lot of bad weather right now, and that's going to extend because that line of thunderstorms, as the storm moves from south to north, is really going to hit a wide swath of people.
So really, until 2 a.m., we can all expect to experience these tropical storm force winds. I mean, everywhere, and then you're going to have these hurricane force gusts continually throughout the afternoon and night. So that's
some
all
clocked
we can
as
tell
much
you.
as 92 miles an hour. The wind gusts at MIA and Miami-Dade County, Collier County, 115 miles an hour. That's not part of our viewing area, but that is an indication of just how fast these winds are moving.
Now, Broward County, again, they're going to feel the end of it. The worst of it will be there around 6 p.m. tonight. But Sanella Sabovic has been driving around Fort Lauderdale, and now she's in the Sunrise area to bring us her report via Skype. Sanella.
Well, Calvin and Lori, we're along Sunrise Boulevard, and we were heading out to survey some more damage, and we came across some people looting here, actually taking advantage of this situation. This is Power Line Road and Sunrise. We're heading westbound. Simon's Sportswear right here. We first caught this about 5 minutes ago. You can see people right there. The glass is shattered, broken, taking advantage and just taking items from this store right there.
Sanella, what is the address again? It's terrible to see.
Can you see this now, Lori?
Yes, we're able to see the looting.
Simon's Footwear, Sportswear, actually. You can see people, I don't know if you can see our image, just taking Nike boxes, shoe boxes, various gym shoes, I believe. They've been looting the Simon's Sportswear along Powerline Road and West Sunrise.
And Sanella, this is a live picture. This is actually happening in real time, we understand, in Sunrise.
This is actually, yes, this is happening right now. Right now, you can see people going in and out. The glass is broken there. And we've seen dozens of people, you can see right there, running in and out. This is a child now.
And they can see you, and they know you're taking video, and yet they're not even deterred. And people stepping out through the glass with boxes of shoes.
And
yes, they know that we're standing right out here in front. This man is actually covering his face because he sees us. This is Simon's Sportswear again. And that's not the only store we saw people stealing from. And just across the way here, there is a Foot Locker. Same area, Powerline Road, Sunrise. We're heading westbound now. This Foot Locker actually has shutters here, but somehow someone managed to break a corner of it apart.
We're gonna make a U-turn.
This Foot Locker. We're going to make a U-turn right now. I have video of that too that I'll be sending back into the station, but more looting happening at that sportswear store as well. Again,
maybe at least
Sunrise.
the presence of your van and your camera will deter those looters, because that is so hard to see. And we know the first responders just can't get out there right now. It's not safe.
Look.
This is Sanella's video from just a few minutes ago,
just
and then we have the live picture as well. People just didn't care about the winds. They don't care about being on camera. They are barely covering their faces, breaking
Cash
through the
America Pawn Store. If you can hear us now, Calvin and Lori, someone broke into the plywood there, actually throwing stuff at us right now. But they broke into there as well. Here's the Foot Locker. You can see the shutter damaged on the corner there. Debris scattered. People breaking into that store as well.
So 3 stores in Sunrise along Powerline Road here. And this is in, or rather, this is in Fort Lauderdale along Powerline Road. And
this is in Fort Lauderdale. That's absolutely right. Powerline and Sunrise. And I know police aren't making their rounds because the wind speeds are gusting over 60 miles per hour, but that definitely needs some attention. Someone needs to call the authorities on that. We have our video if anyone sees that. The looting is happening at several different stores in that same block. So we're gonna.
Sonella, do you know by chance what they used to break that window to get into one of these stores here to steal those boxes of shoes?
We actually caught it in progress. The glass is shattered, so maybe a brick of some sorts on the first location, the Simon Sportswear. The second one, they actually, it appears that a shutter was destroyed, like a corner of it. Maybe it wasn't secured properly. We're not sure, but we caught all of this in progress as we were trying to get some more video and continue to present you images on Skype. We've been, showing you damaged trees and things to that extent across the city of Fort Lauderdale. And so we were trying to head into a mobile home park in Davie to see if that sustained damage. And as we were heading to that location, that's where we caught these looters in progress, just filtering in and out of that broken window. And then shortly thereafter, it was the Foot Locker directly across the street on Sunrise and Powerline, where we saw more people stealing shoe boxes and among other items. And now that pawn store in the same complex was also broken into.
And we can see a gray ladder in front of the Simon's footwear there, Sonella, so possibly that was what they used to break through that glass. Just not deterred at all by what Mother Nature is putting all of South Florida through. It is a crime, a literal crime, to see what these young people are doing. So let's hope we will certainly, through our news desk, we'll get the authorities on this, and if possible, they will get out to that location. Really hard to see.
Let's take you now to Plantation. We talked about a downed power line and how it caught on fire, and these are the pictures that we have turned around for you in Plantation once again. Not quite sure where this is happening, what 100 block where this is happening, but this is a downed power line in Plantation that has caught fire. And one more reason why, based on what our Christy Kruger reported from the Emergency Operations Center in Plantation 2, that downed power lines and water, not a good mix. In fact, it is a deadly mix. So don't try to walk through any standing water, and please do not try to assess any sort of damage yourself. These downed power lines causing some of the outages, obviously all across South Florida. But once again, this is happening in Plantation. And we are bringing you these pictures based on what one of our viewers sent in to us via Twitter.
And our Nicole Perez down in Southwest Miami-Dade warns us that there's a similar scene going on at US 1 northbound at I-95. Right where US 1 northbound becomes I-95, there's a power line cable laying across the entire highway. She is warning people to use extreme caution if they are anywhere near that area. And that goes for our crews as well, who are trying to be out and about for you.
Let's take you outside right now. We're going to show you live pictures of how the conditions are as we speak. This is just outside of our studios here in the Pembroke Park. And it looks like, is that rain coming down sideways?
It does look like you can't even see the lake
rain,
behind our station. Yeah. And this band is just tremendous as it is moving on through almost from south to north. Yeah. Betty, we just that's such an unusual weather pattern for us to see this storm kind of starting down south and the worst of it moving its way north throughout the day.
Hey, Lori, I was just going to say it's following the journey ultimately of Irma. Irma is moving toward the north, so those bands lifting from the north toward the south, and at the same time there's that onshore flow with Irma, so the bands are working in off the Atlantic as all of this is lifting up toward the north. We're looking live right now at Coral Gables, another area hard hit with all the heavy rainfall. The palms are swaying, and there is more than a little breeze out there this afternoon. Let's just put it that way, as we have seen the hurricane force gusts coming into many of your neighborhoods out there. I do want to talk about this wind energy, also the rainfall, as we do remain under a flood watch watch, and in some of your neighborhoods, we're starting to notice that standing water out there. We're finding those winds from the east where we're getting the reporting stations that are still up. Mind you, a lot are off balance or knocked offline at this point. Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Kendall, Homestead. But Pompano Beach, if you're listening on the radio right now, you're in a southeast wind sustained at 51 miles per hour. Tropical storm force Pembroke Pines, 41 mile per hour sustained wind. Notice Hialeah with winds sustained at 52 miles per hour, and Hialeah gusting to almost 70 right now. So it is around southwest Miami-Dade and south central Miami-Dade where that heavy rain band has just been pounding, and very slow to lift up toward the north. And we knew this would be a slow progression because Irma is a slow mover, not necessarily moving at a quick pace. Pembroke Pines, if you're listening out there on the radio, you're in a southeast wind gusting to 64 miles per hour. Pompano Beach, look at you, a southeast wind gusting at 70 miles per hour. So that is almost hurricane force, and this is why we're telling you you want to stick inside and ride this out, and that is why you're seeing the kinds of images. For those of you who maybe still have power and watching us right now, that is why you are seeing some of the damage, the images, the video that we've been bringing to you. So let's talk about these wind gusts and how this could potentially unfold or play out for the rest of the afternoon and evening based on the GFS model. A lot of you listening on the radio probably want to know, when is all of this going to slow down? We know that that core of Irma is pulling away from the lower Keys right now, but the winds are still kicking, and within those rain bands and an expanding wind field, that wind energy still being felt and will continue to be felt across many of our neighborhoods. So we'll take this model out to around 2 o'clock p.m. and it's indicating that we could still have some of those hurricane force wind gusts in places like Homestead and Kendall and Miami and Hialeah, and those kinds of gusts too. If you're listening right now in Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach and Pembroke Pines, those kinds of gusts still possible because this model is showing 80+ mile per hour wind gusts, and that is of course hurricane force. 6 o'clock this afternoon or evening is just about to begin by that time. I will note this model suggesting the wind starting to slow down around the lower Keys. This is as Irma, the core of it, continues to pull farther up toward the north, impacting places like Naples and eventually up toward Fort Myers. So that is where Irma's going to be, so getting in around that Fort Myers area. So as the winds start to slow down around the lower Keys, mind you, still hurricane force, we'll find that wind energy really picking up in some of those bands in places like Miami-Dade still, and also in Broward County. So around 6 o'clock this afternoon, I do want to talk about the breakdown of that. This model suggesting around 6 p.m. we could still have winds gusting to about 70 in Key Largo and Homestead, but Kendall, Miami, Hialeah, Pembroke Pines, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, it's still possible for you to have those winds gusting to 80, maybe 83 miles per hour. And then around 8 o'clock tonight, this model is showing the winds dropping off for the lower Keys. In fact, all of the Keys at that point, winds tropical storm force, 50+ miles per hour. Areas of South Miami-Dade, your gust finally down to just tropical storm force. So this is 8 p.m. tonight we're talking about. But places like Kendall, Miami, Hialeah, Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines, Pompano Beach, 8 p.m. still finding those winds gusting to about 71 miles per hour. So we're still near hurricane force, but the numbers are starting to drop off just a little bit. So right until tonight, even around 10 o'clock tonight, if you're listening right now from Broward County, you could still have winds gusting around 70 miles per hour, including northeast Dade. We're talking places like Miami, even north central Dade around Hialeah and Doral. Winds could still be gusting to around 70 miles per hour this evening at 10 p.m. But then down into South Dade, Homestead, down through the Keys, it should still be more like tropical storm force. So that is how the wind story evolves. It gets better in terms of the winds easing back from south to north tonight. And then finally by 11 p.m. tonight, we see Broward, we're talking Pompano Beach, Coconut Creek, We're talking Coral Springs. We know you're watching and listening out there. Hopefully you're weathering everything okay this afternoon. Finally, your winds by 11 p.m. more like mid-50s and those mid-50s too in and around areas of Miami-Dade. So finally, everybody getting back down to tropical storm force by, say, 11 p.m. midnight tonight. But even that is serious business and something you cannot get caught up in, because here's the deal. Through the night, those tropical storm force winds, although they start to reduce in intensity, coming down to the upper 40s around 2 in the morning, it won't be until, say, tomorrow morning around 8 a.m. until our wind gusts finally drop off into those 30s ranges. So straight through tonight, we're going to have these blustery conditions out there, hurricane force conditions coming down to tropical storm force conditions. And then by tomorrow morning around 8 a.m., winds should be by that time gusting to in the 30s. So that will be an improvement. But at that point, I guess everybody will be trying to get out and see what the damage is at that time. But that means Irma will be pulling farther away, and from south to north, the winds will be relaxing across the area. But relaxing, not necessarily the word right now. Now, the other element to this weather story we need to talk about is the rain and how much we have seen so far. We know we're under a flood watch. There is that potential for some areas to pick up I think some 8 to 15 inches of rain, maybe some isolated amounts of 20. So right now, what we've measured for Lauderdale, notice zeros showing up here on the rainfall totals, but I think that has to do something to do with the measuring station no longer reporting. Remember, we've had these strong winds that have knocked some of the gauges offline. That's what I'm thinking. So therefore, not reporting there. But Pembroke Pines, we're noting almost 1.5 inches of rainfall so far. Some isolated areas out there, sure, you may have picked up more than that. Hialeah, more than 2 inches of rain so far. Miami, 1 3/4 inch, 1.86 inches in Kendall and Homestead. No doubt you've had some significant accumulations. Like I said, isolated spots certainly have picked up more. It's just a case of, in some cases, our reporting stations aren't reporting because the winds have done a number on some of the instrumentation out there this afternoon. Notice the picture to my right. This is what's happening outside. It's the heavy rain. It's the wind driving the rain. And that brings us to the Doppler radar. As we watch the core of Irma churning just off that west coast of Florida. So it continues to lift up toward the north. I think it's moving north at 8 miles per hour. So it's moving farther away from the Keys, and some of the bands still wrapping back in our area and containing those very strong winds. We knew that wind field was large and had the potential to continue to spread out. That's why we're feeling those hurricane force winds all the way over on our side. And here's the view. Maybe you have some family up in Naples and that core getting oh so close to Naples right now. But let's focus on some of the bands, the more intense band, the one that's been lifting through southwest Dade. It looks like that is finally starting to move more north of Homestead and Florida City, but make no mistake about it, still the weather is not pretty out for those areas as this rain continues to come down and the winds continue to blow. However, those gusts may not be as strong as they have been. So we'll zoom in right around that Homestead area. Cutler Bay probably still involved in some of the gustier winds, by the way, as we track that band, that little strip of red you see there. That an indication of some heavier rainfall and perhaps some of those gustier winds coming into places like Kendall and Miccosukee, and likely Miami and the surrounding area. More to come for your neighborhoods out there. So we'll watch as all of that lifts up toward places like Wynwood, eventually getting into Hialeah as well. And then some of that lifting all the way up into Broward as we move through the evening, as if the weather isn't bad enough around Broward County where the rainfall continues to come in. So it's just the process of getting Irma up to the north, of Irma moving itself, being steered up to the north and lifting all those rain bands over us with it, and with it all of this wind energy to go along with that wind field that's so broad that we've been talking about. As for the Florida Keys, this is now the scene as the rainfall, the core pulls away. The rain not as heavy necessarily for some of these areas, but the upper Keys certainly still taking a battering out there. So that's the scene on the Doppler radar. Hopefully I gave enough specific towns for those of you listening on the radio. You have an idea for how those winds will play out for the rest of tonight and into tomorrow as well. It's going to be this gradual relaxation process as Irma lifts up to the north and that core gets farther away from us.
Okay, Betty, thank you. Those hurricane force gusts turning into tropical storm force winds, so just be careful out there. It is not over yet.
We are joined by phone now with Miami Mayor Tomas Regalado. Mayor, we thank you for your time on this very stormy, crazy day. What's happening to your city is really hard to see. The worst we've seen is in Brickell Avenue. What can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon, Lori. Good afternoon, Calvin. We just took a tour of downtown Miami. We had to use a SWAT armored vehicle because a car won't do it. The winds are really strong in Biscayne Boulevard. There is no flooding in Biscayne. There is no flooding in downtown Miami, just a lot of debris. Brickell, it is flooded, and definitely is a storm surge. For the last 6 hours, we had the high tide. High tide came in at 12:47, and we expect more water to come into Brickell, especially around the 12th and 13th streets around Brickell. We cannot use the pump at this moment because the generator will be flooded because of the storm surge. That combined with the rain, it's creating a problem. Mostly what we have in the city of Miami are hundreds of trees down. We have, of course, many people without power, 125,000 people, customers without power in the city of Miami. We do have already about 11 what we call cut teams. These are firefighters and public works employees that are located on 9 fire stations throughout the city of Miami. So as soon as the wind comes down, these people will be deployed. They will be cleaning the street for the first responders to respond. Because, as you know, when we have winds of up to 45 miles per hour, neither fire or police can respond. We have blocked, and we'll be blocking some streets in downtown Miami because of the issue with the crane. We just inspected that crane in downtown Miami. It does not present an immediate danger, but measures are being taken. But going back to your question about flooding, we have seen flooding in Coconut Grove. We have seen flooding in what we call the Upper East Side, which is Belmead and Shortcrest and Morningside. And we have seen very strong flooding in Brickell Avenue because of the storm surge.
And Mr. Mayor, too, I know right now this is a Fort Lauderdale issue. We had some incredible video of happening in real time, looters who were going into some businesses along Powerline Road. And I know some business owners in Miami are probably wondering if it's happening in Broward County, how soon is that going to begin to happen in, say, Miami? How do you respond to that? How are your folks going to respond to that issue?
Well, Calvin, what we did yesterday is that we ordered a curfew, and it worked. The police was out there asking people what they were doing. People comply. There were no arrests because of the curfew. We're debating whether or not to continue the curfew tonight. We think we should, and we may. But yesterday, everything was quiet. There was no sign of forced entry in any homes. We have many homes that are empty because people have fled north because of what we expected and didn't get it. But the police, as a matter of fact, we're here at the emergency center of the police department, and we have everyone from the police ready to go out. We have 24-hour shifts in the police department, and we have not seen any incident at all in the city of Miami. So we're going to do this again tonight, and people should be assured that they will be safe, that there will be a lot of police. You will see police cars when they can go out with the lights on to attract visibility. So there's going to be a lot of police officers on the street tonight.
And Mayor Regalado, we're looking at tremendous video of whiteout conditions down along Brickell and downtown Miami, and boats just being thrown around at the end of Brickell there where it meets the Rickenbacker Causeway. Were you able to check any of those docks down there? Did you see the conditions of the boats?
Yes, there have been damage to boats, especially in Dinner Key Marina. One of the docks was blown away. That was an old dock that was needed to be repaired. There are damage in the Outboard Club in Watson Island because some of the boats that were anchored near the club got loose and crashed into the club. There's some damage to boats in Dinner Key, but not major damage. But yes, I'm sure that there will be a lot of insurance claims come next week.
And from a rebuilding and recovery standpoint, are you optimistic about all of these places that you've talked about that sustained some sort of damage being rebuilt and recovering in a short amount of time?
Yes, absolutely, Calvin. What every year we place on the budget a $5 million contingency. We on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we had solid waste working 14 hours on overtime. We spent about $400,000 cleaning debris. We took out about 500 tons of debris and trash every single day, and we now have contracted 2 more companies, private companies, to help out in the cleanup. We believe that the damages, some of the damage of the infrastructure of the city, especially marinas, will be covered by insurance, of course. I signed a declaration of emergency on Friday, which allows us to request from FEMA and Homeland Security reimbursement. So I think we're pretty good. We're very confident that we will be able to repair whatever damage is, but we have to have forward thinking. We need to have a conversation about climate change and sea level rise and do whatever needs to be done, not for us and not for next month or for Jose, but for the next generation of Miamians. We need to start doing something to prepare for the changes that we have seen. And these 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic are not fake news. They're just there,
And
So
Mayor, we know people's lives are the most important thing to you, and it sounds like you really got ahead of this storm. But we saw some video of what appeared to be a homeless man right in front of the AAA. He was just walking without shoes and without much on. We're showing the video right now. He fell and tripped, hit his head in the winds, right into the steps there. And we, of course, don't want people outside. He couldn't even control himself. The wind just carried him. Do you feel as though, and there he went. He hit the steps head first by the AAA. Do you feel the authorities were able to get most of the homeless off the streets, get them to Chapman Partnership or Camilla's house before this storm hit?
Yes, Lori, 95% of the homeless population in the city of Miami went into shelters. We were not able to convince some of the people to leave what they call their home, which is that part of the sidewalk near downtown Miami. But what we did, and it worked with most of the people, and there were about 10 people that refused help. But we took a doctor with the homeless outreach team, and they Baker-act one of the homeless person because he fit the criteria of doing harm to himself. So the police removed him without force, of course, and was taken to Jackson Memorial Hospital. But this is a process. We are under federal mandate that homeless cannot be forced. The police tried to persuade those people they didn't want to leave, but it worked. With at least one of them was Baker-act and taken to the hospital. The outreach teams will be out as soon as the winds die down, trying to bring those small group of people that just refuse any help. They say that they don't want to leave their home, which is the street.
And Mr. Mayor, very quickly before we let you go, just about that situation in Brickell with the flooding, how soon do you think you'll be able to get that under control in terms of getting that water pumped out of there?
As soon as the winds die down below 45 miles per hour, Public Works will be using their generator that cannot be used because of the flooding, and it will be damaged and create fire, and start pumping. We believe that we can do that after we start the process in a few hours. In about 2 or 3 hours, the water will be able to recede.
Okay. The mayor of the city of Miami, Tomas Regalado, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Let's head up into Broward County now. We know you're going to be seeing the worst of it around 6 p.m. based on the radar that you're looking at right now. Our Laren Livingston is there really getting pelted. Laren.
Hi, Lori, Calvin. Sorry, I was just having some audio issues there. I had to make sure my earbuds were in properly. But you said getting ready for the worst, and this right now is not good at all. This just literally picked up within the last 5 minutes or so, and this is what you're looking at here off of the Broadwalk, which is going to be to our immediate left here of the camera. And then you're looking down Polk Street right now as this wind continues to whip from the beach. Earlier this afternoon, the water was rushing onto the beach and is still rushing onto the beach, and you can see the sand and the water and the seaweed as it comes down the sidewalk here. Every once in a while here we'll hear this popping, and we were trying for the longest to figure out what this popping was, and then we finally found out it was this awning here, this awning on the side of this hotel here. It gets whipped by the wind, and every once in a while it'll snap and it'll pop, and you'll see that water at the top of that burgundy awning there just snapping off, and that's what that loud noise was. This area here is taking a beating by these winds. In fact, these palm trees have been swaying for quite some time, and after a while they start to hit the ground. So now we're starting to see those palm fronds hit the ground. We also have seen tree branches hit the ground and leaves and other debris hitting the ground. Earlier today, we actually saw a piece of metal. I did fly behind my photographer. Thankfully, it did not hit him, it did not hit us, it did not hit the truck, but it was definitely a dangerous situation. But this is what we've been dealing with, is just increasingly sustained, heavy winds here off of the Hollywood Beach Broadwalk here at Polk Street, and has not let up, and no telling when it will let up. But hopefully that will start to happen within the next couple of hours or so, because the water, I'm looking at it even now, has gotten much deeper on the beach. It's pretty much saturated the entire beach. I can't tell where the Broadwalk stops and the ocean begins, because it's basically just rushing onto this area now. And that's what a lot of people were concerned with, that we spoke with during the days leading up to what we're seeing now, was that they were more so worried about the storm surge, and that's what the concern seems to be. That concern seems to be warranted concern, as you see this water come across the beach and rush with these white caps, and it's stinging. Sand and water is stinging the back of my hand right now, which is kind of why we were trying to stand behind this building by which our live truck is parked, because it's helping block some of these heavy winds. And the good thing is we're not seeing a lot of people out here. We saw one guy come out, looks like he was taking some photographs, but seems like everybody is heeding the warning, staying inside, hunkering down. Hurricane impact windows these folks here at this hotel are grateful for. Shutters are still up. People are hunkering down and waiting this out, and hopefully within the next few hours they won't have to wait out too much longer. But this storm is here, and there's still much more storm to go through. And so just want to make sure you stay in your safe places until the all clear is given.
And for those of you listening on the radio, we are looking live in Hollywood. It is just getting pelted. Laren Livingston there live for us. But Laren, this is not the peak of it. You are not set to get the peak until about 6 p.m. as we look on our radar and see the outer bands, the way they are whipping around counterclockwise. The peak of this storm is moving from the south of our viewing area all the way up north. So
I was listening to Betty earlier, and I was just like, okay, so if this is not the bad part, I can't imagine what the bad part will look like. And again, we're like 3.5, 4 hours north of Key West, where the wall and the eye of the storm came ashore. And so imagine what those winds and what that feels like. This is pretty bad. And when I tell you step out there as that wind channels through these two buildings here, it hurts.
And keep in mind, too, that the folks in Broward County, like in Hollywood, not only will you feel those hurricane force gusts, but then that'll drop down to tropical storm force winds that could easily top between 40 and 70 miles an hour, and that's going to last until 10 to 11 o'clock tonight. So just keep that in mind for the folks in Broward County. So many cities are in line for those intense thunderstorms and those intense gusts that are going to be coming your way.
One of those intense gusts is happening right now. It just happened. It's literally happening as you said that, Calvin. It's just we could see more water spraying basically across the roadway here and down through that alley. As soon as you said that, it hit.
But Laren, the barometer for serious flooding in Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale is always A1A. When it's underwater, then people really feel that they are flooded. A1A is not covered in water yet, where we're looking.
I hope not. I haven't been able to go down because we're a couple of blocks west of it, behind the beach here, of course. But it's something we'll definitely be checking out on our way out here, just because we have to go down A1A in order to get back to the station. If we're going to be able to get back to the station, it depends on what the conditions are, because it's probably safer right now to just kind of sit here and wait for things to calm down, hopefully at least a little bit, before we get back on the roadway, because these conditions out here are quite treacherous. These palm trees, I haven't seen them dance like this in ever. Not since we've been covering this storm, not since this storm made landfall, not since this, I mean, these palm trees are constantly moving and constantly bending, and now again they're losing more of their fronds as they lay in the street there. It's intense.
Well, this storm in many ways is unprecedented. Wondering too, I mean, this is such a popular area for tourists. What about the businesses along the Broadwalk? Many of the mom and pop stores, some of the restaurants, were they securely boarded up, or did they have some issues as a result of all of this wind and this heavy rain?
At least from this area that we've been in, it seems like the businesses, the restaurants, the storefronts, a lot of plywood sheets were boarding up some of those windows and doors. We saw some metal shutters up. I did see earlier this morning, just down the sidewalk from where we are, down the Broadwalk, that they had some of the metal shutters.
Let us interrupt you one moment, because you may be part of this. There's a tornado warning now until 2:15 in the Broward area and maybe beyond. We have our own Max Mayfield right here. Max, maybe you see some of that information, and Betty is coming in with it. I know it's going off on my phone and on Calvin's phone. Yeah. These tornado warnings come in so frequently, and it may very well affect that area.
And all it says on my phone is from the National Weather Service.
Well, we were part of one earlier.
Yeah, well, we know. Go ahead, Betty.
We were part of one earlier.
Laren, you can go ahead and take shelter. I'll take this from here. A severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado located 8 miles east of Surfside. It's moving northwest at 90 miles per hour. So if you are in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, and Davie, you are in the path of a storm that could produce a tornado. And I know it's very difficult to see exactly where that storm is, but within this band, there is a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Again, this is racing toward the northwest at 95 miles per hour. So if you're in this area, you want to take shelter as soon as you can. I know everybody's already inside hunkered down anyway because the weather is just too awful to really get out in. But I'll put a warning on that, and this tornado warning is in effect until 2:15 this afternoon. So it's 1:52 now. So until 2:15, this is going to be one of those short-lived or short-lived tornado warnings as this storm races toward the northwest at 90 miles per hour. Again, if you are in Fort Lauderdale, if you are in Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, and Davie, you could be in the path of this storm. This is a Doppler radar indicated tornado. We know that we have that potential for those quick spin ups. So we have to pay very close attention to the Doppler radar velocities that show up to see if anything catches our eye to show us, to indicate that there could be a tornado produced by this storm. So again, until 2:15 this afternoon, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Around 1:49, the storm was 8 miles east of Surfside. It is moving northwest at 90 miles per hour. It is racing. So this warning is going to end at 2:15. That is the information I have right now on this particular storm. Interior room away from windows. So if you live in, again, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, and Davie, brace yourselves for the next 20 minutes. Just get in an interior room, 20 to 30 minutes until 2:15. And once this storm whips past us, hopefully we'll go back to being just more concerned about how gusty it is outside as opposed to an actual tornado being produced. Lori and Calvin?
Well, on your left side of your screen, Betty, we have this live picture in Fort Lauderdale. This is from one of our storm Skypers. We could see them out on their patio, so no doubt they were taking cover, and hopefully they will not endanger themselves because we do want them to go indoors into an interior room, as you say, with no windows. But that is just a scene of how whipping those winds are in Fort Lauderdale right now.
And Betty, you said Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Davie, and the
Fort
city
Lauderdale, Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, and Davie. You are in the path of this storm. Tornado warning in effect until 2:15. You want to stay inside and ride this one out. Of course, all of you are already inside. You just need to know that these storms are whipping and racing by, and they could spawn a tornado at any second.
Okay. All right, 8 miles outside of Surfside. Thanks a lot, Betty. And compared to yesterday, 95 miles an hour moving at that rate.
Calvin, if I can interrupt you just for a second. This is what I was trying to do and talk at the same time. If we can pull up graphics 42. So this is what we're having to look at on graphics 42, velocity data. And it's the juxtaposition of how the winds are moving toward and away from the radar. The red next to green, these are the velocity signatures we look for to determine whether a tornado or there's some indication of rotation. And we see that being played out here. So that is why there's a tornado warning going on this particular storm, racing toward the northwest, as I said, at 90 miles per hour. We'll probably get an update on that scan momentarily. 90 miles per hour. I know that sounds shocking, but 90 miles per hour, that's just the flow of how these are moving. As we know, there are some very strong winds caught up with the circulation of Irma. So here are some of the areas in the path of this particular storm. I'm not sure if that track, did you drag it out 90 miles per hour?
No, it's actually, I would have to pull out.
Okay,
really
but the
far.
bottom line is you can see on graphics 41 all the areas within that warning box. Let's go back over to graphics 41 even. All those areas are in this tornado warning, and you can see those areas outlined: Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, Coral Springs, even up toward Boca Raton, although that's outside of our viewing area. But Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, and Davie. We'll be tracking this storm racing toward the northwest. Back to you guys, Calvin and Lori.
Okay, we just have about 20 more minutes until that tornado warning expires, but keep in mind, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Hollywood, Davie, Coral Springs, stay inside, seek an interior room, and please stay away from any windows.
And maybe tied to this, we have one of the shelters in Broward that just lost power. Watkins Elementary, the shelter there just lost power in Broward County. So we will watch this tornado warning very closely.
Carlos Jimenez, the mayor of
have
Miami-Dade
been
County,
happening here
speaking
in
now.
Miami-Dade County since this morning and will continue till this evening. storm surge. We have been experiencing 4 to 6 feet of storm surge in parts of Miami-Dade County, and I just saw some images coming from Brickell, probably 2 to 3 feet there. We're experiencing 3 to 5 inches of rain from the city of Miami all the way up to the Broward line, 2 to 4 inches of rain in southern Miami-Dade from Country Walk down. Hurricane Irma has intensified back to a Category 4. So obviously we want everybody to stay inside, stay safe. Everything is closed. There's nothing to go to anyway. So, just hunker down and we'll get through this pretty quickly. If you encounter a down power line, if you do go out, which I really encourage you not to, consider it hot. Any signal, any traffic signal that is not working should be treated as a 4-way stop. We have 42 shelters open, 1 special needs shelter. 18 are now at capacity. There are over 30,000 residents that are taking advantage of our shelters. We want everyone in our shelters to stay in place at least until tomorrow morning that's when tropical storm force winds shall cease. Miami-Dade Transit ceased operations last night. Our neighborhood trash collections also ceased operations and remain closed today. Miami International Airport is open, but remember it's not a shelter and flights have been canceled. Remember 911 is for emergencies only. Call 311 for any questions. It's open 24 hours a day. On Sunday, September 10th to today, Hurricane Irma began impacting Miami-Dade County, causing severe weather conditions. It has left county roadways blocked and many traffic signals inoperable. As of this afternoon, Florida Power and Light is reporting 725,000 accounts are without power. That's three-fourths of Miami-Dade County is now without power. These impacts are expected to continue through the early hours of Monday. Therefore, I am issuing a curfew for Miami-Dade County effective as of 7 o'clock tonight until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. It will allow our crews to go and start to clean up the debris and start to clean the roadways. We don't want extra people on the roadways while we're doing that. It will allow our crews to go ahead and assess the damage. It will allow emergency personnel to respond to calls without having to worry about additional traffic. So that is the reasons why I am now putting a curfew for Miami-Dade County. Our police officers will be in the streets prior to that time, if you violate the curfew, you may be stopped and asked why you're on the street. Please stay inside. There's no real reason to be outside. A lot of the streets that if you were even thinking about going outside, are going to be blocked anyway. There's a lot of trees down. There's a lot of debris on the road. It's unsafe. The traffic lights, the vast majority of them are not operating, and our emergency personnel really need to do their job. First off, cleaning the streets, then responding to calls, and then assessing the damage, and then starting the recovery. Miami-Dade, I'm also announcing that Miami-Dade County offices will be closed on Tuesday, in addition to tomorrow, Monday. Essential emergency county employees will be contacted to report to work to aid in the recovery efforts. I want to thank also all of our elected officials, our commissioners, for the great work they're doing, and obviously I want to thank all of the emergency response personnel that work for Miami-Dade County and the fantastic job they're doing, the shelter workers, the transit workers that took folks, thousands of people to shelters. I couldn't be prouder of the effort and the work that Miami-Dade County and the employees have done. And again, this is a cooperative effort with all the commissioners, and I want to thank all the commissioners for their help in in managing this situation. The storm is still here, but soon we'll be in the recovery phase, and we need everybody's help. As far as I know, there is nothing wrong with the water. Our water system is working well. There are no boil order for water anywhere in Miami-Dade County. So if you have run out of drinking water, you're in plastic bottles, please open the tap, drink all you want. There's no need to panic, or there's no need to go outside to buy water Simply open your tap and drink. It's Miami-Dade County water is fine, and it's working just well. Very fine. Any questions?
Mr. Marigali, how big is that sigh of relief you're breathing today, given what we were looking at 36 hours or so ago?
It's not as big as I mean. I would have been a really big sigh of relief if she hadn't impacted us at all. But there is impacts to Miami-Dade County. There will be a lot of time to clean up. There's a lot of people without power, and so now starts the recovery efforts. We're having a meeting soon after we have this press conference with the haulers, et cetera, the ones that are going to clear the streets. That's vital. We will also be coordinating with our gas stations and our food stores to make sure that they get back in business. Again, most of them will probably be without power for a certain amount of time. FPL has to go out and assess exactly what the power situation is. We have to restore power to our critical infrastructure, to hospitals, and to those locations that are critical to the well-being of Miami-Dade County. There is a good plan for that. Florida Power and Light and Miami-Dade County have a list of those critical needs that need to get power, right off the bat, and so that's what we're going to be working on first. Obviously, though, there are a lot of homes and apartments without power, so a large number of the residents of Miami-Dade County will be without power for some time. We don't anticipate FPL to be able to go out and start assessing the damage until sometime tomorrow.
Mayor, you mentioned information about
He's first, and then I'll take you. Okay.
Could you just give us, what does FPL told you about restoration of the power? How long it might take for FPL?
I think, when you have such a large number, I mean, when you have 3/4, and by the way, that number continues to grow because we're still like in the midst of it, in the middle of the storm. And so every hour we get more and more, power outages. I think it's a giant task, gargantuan task for Florida Power and Light. They have stated to me and to others that they have new technology to be able to get us back, as soon as possible. But a lot of this stuff is, it's infrastructure. Power lines are down. Power lines are down. It's not a question of some kind of electronic gizmo that is failing. The power line is physically down, and they've got to do certain things to put it back up. I did notice that the power didn't go off, as rapidly as before, because they have new technology that cycles, when a branch hits, but it went out anyway, okay, at the end. And I can't blame Florida Power and Light. We live in a beautiful place with a lot of trees, and we have a lot of overhead power, and that's susceptible. Every time we have a hurricane, it's susceptible to damage. And so, I think that that's got to be probably the number one cause of the power outages that we have, is the interaction of the power lines with the foliage of Miami-Dade County. Yes, sir.
what do you know about flooding or storm surge in South Dade, Palmetto Bay?
I'm hearing reports of storm surge, 4 to 6 feet. I saw the report of probably 2 to 4 feet there on Brickell. I mean, it went over the seawall, and it's flooding Brickell. That flooding that I see, really, I can't account for it with just being rain. I think it has to be a storm surge event. So that's the reasons why
listening to Mayor Carlos Jimenez talking about how
evacuated so many
3/4 of
people.
Miami-Dade are without
Thank
power,
God
a curfew
we
from
weren't
7 p.m. to
directed
7 a.m. tomorrow. But we need to get right over to our weather team and the latest on the tornado warning.
That's right. That tornado warning is still in effect. We're now getting information from the National Weather Service office locally that a train spotter did report a tornado at 2 o'clock on the ground near Fort Lauderdale International Airport and 595. And this was at 2 o'clock this afternoon. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning going. That storm is racing. Meteorologist Jennifer Correa joining me toward the northwest at 70 miles per hour. If you look at graphics 41, that's the area being warned on. We've put a cone in that red outlined area. So you are in the path of this storm if you're watching right now from the following places: Hollywood, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach and Davie. As mentioned, it was at 2 o'clock when a spotter reported a tornado on the ground near Fort Lauderdale International Airport and 595. So that was about 6 minutes ago. This tornado warning in effect still until 2:15. And the latest update is that this storm is moving northwest at 70 miles per hour. So it's a quick mover. And knowing that we've made the transition from a Doppler radar indicated tornado to a trained weather spotting, actually seeing one, this is something you want to take seriously. And with that, we'll now check in with the National Hurricane Center to find out more about how the weather is evolving over South Florida as we track Hurricane Irma. Who are we speaking to at the National Hurricane Center?
Mark, you there? Dr. Mark DeMaria. There we go. Mark?
Hi, this is Mark at the
Okay, this is Dr. Mark DeMaria from the National Hurricane Center. Give us the latest from the 2 p.m. and give us the change in the intensity too.
Yeah, as of the 2 p.m. advisory, the maximum winds are 120 miles per hour. So Irma remains a major hurricane and rapidly approaching the Naples area.
And we're just, really focused on the Keys here in Miami-Dade and Broward County for now. Can you give us some hope here, a little timeline on when the strongest winds do you think will move out?
Yeah, at the present time, Irma's about at the latitude of the Miami area. And as it continues up to the north, we expect the winds to switch around a little bit towards the north, towards the southwest, and they'll be moving more over land. So we expect the winds should start to subside in the Miami-Dade and Broward areas over the next couple of hours.
I would say, you think the strongest wind bands will be out here in the next 2 or 3 hours then?
Yes, that's correct. Although we're still seeing gusts to hurricane force at the Hurricane Center in the past hour.
Okay, and what about, I know Mike Brennan was talking about possible storm surge pushing up Biscayne Bay this morning. How do you feel about the storm surge increasing when the winds come out of the south? Do you think that's not a concern anymore?
Along the East Coast, you're not as concerned about that. The peak tide occurred around noon, and then with the wind switching around more to a southwesterly direction, we don't anticipate that storm surge will be as much of an issue in the Miami area.
Okay, that's comforting to those people who have water on the roads and streets here now. What about the core? Is there, it's still, what's left of that inner core is still there. Do you think when it interacts with land that will go ahead and weaken, and that outer band will become the main one, which really gets it out, well out away from the eye?
Yeah, there still is a pretty healthy northern eye wall there, but that's going to interact with land over the next couple of hours. So we anticipate that there'll be a significant weakening of that inner core area. But again, this is a very large hurricane with a large circulation, so the effects of this are going to last well into tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I know we lost our time there, but thank you and good luck.
Thanks, Max.
So he was saying the peak winds he think will go on for another 2 hours.
Looking at this, I think he's at least he's hoping that this may be the last of the heaviest bands anyway.
Right.
So let us hope that's right. You can see how on Salad, I know the people who can't hear us. If you can see the eye, it's just very close to Marco Island and Naples on the west coast. And this, we are so thankful here in Miami-Dade and Broward that core stayed, well west of us. That's where those Category 4 and now Category 3 winds are right now, and the bands are. You can see the bands here to the east. They're really getting thinner here in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, or north of the Florida Keys. It really thins out. You can see how thick these bands are. They're so close together you can't hardly separate the bands.
Right.
So I think what Mark is trying to say is that this band that you know, it's moving so fast it's hard to tell here. But this one that comes over Miami and up into Broward County, and then there's another one right here that goes from the western part of southwestern part of Miami-Dade County up into Maine and Monroe and into Collier County. Once those two get by, we're going to have some relief in sight, but
right.
that's
Maybe
going to
more
take a little while.
tropical storm force gusts, and our worries about the hurricane force gusts will start to diminish.
Right.
But that still won't happen until this evening.
Right, and I really think that, I mean, just to make this simple, I think we ought to just say, you know, let's just stay inside until the sun comes up tomorrow to be safe here. I do have a graphic.
Before you start, Max, I just
okay.
want to mention one thing
Sure.
about the tornado warning. It has been expired. So the Doppler radar indicated rotation. Those indications on Doppler radar, we don't have those anymore. So the tornado warning has expired for that area of Broward. We'll let you know if any more are issued.
Okay, Betty and Max, thank you so much. We are going to go to a gentleman who is standing outside for us and Skyping with us, Alberto Casaretto. Thank you so much for joining us once again, and give us an idea of what you're feeling out there.
We're doing good. Since the last time we spoke, the wind has definitely picked up more, as you can see here from the last time, as well as the storm surge over here on the Cordova Road. This is in Rio Vista. Definitely has progressed further, despite the high tide already passing around 12 o'clock. So I think some of this water here is getting into some of the older houses that are built in the past. Currently, we do not have any water entering our home, but definitely Irma is increasing in intensity significantly.
Alberto, we just reported a tornado spotted inland from you near Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport in 595. I mean, did you sense any of that? Did you see anything different going on?
I think the intensity was a little higher about 5 to 10 minutes ago in the area. I did not see the tornado in this area, though. But in general, the intensity of the wind has diminished some since 5 to 10 minutes ago.
And in Miami, the flooding in some parts of Miami was measured at 2 to 3 feet. How would you measure it from your angle there? I know it's kind of tough to do, but how deep do you think the water is? Yeah.
I think it's probably 2 feet above the high sea level that we've had in the past here in this territory.
Along with expectations,
Yes, around there, 2 feet.
And Alberto, we're seeing images all around your area. I mean, massive palm trees down, water tops underwater.
Yeah, there are some trees down. I haven't seen any palm trees down, but there are reports that have been trees down throughout Rio Vista. There have also been some reports of a capsized boat at Lauderdale Yacht Club that I saw some pictures of. So there's definitely damage occurring in our neighborhood.
And we see a beautiful yacht parked right there in front of you. Is that yours, or does it seem to be secure?
That's my neighbor's yacht. It's very safe with cement piling. So I think that'll fare well.
And hurricane force gusts are going to be coming your way for hours now, at least until about 6 o'clock, and then the tropical storm force winds are going to be your way and coming your way until about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. What do you think will happen to some of the trees in your neighborhood? Do you think that'll be the case too, that some more trees will be uprooted or not?
Absolutely. As the wind continues, I think more and more of the trees will get loosened and they will start toppling down. Some of the larger oak trees, those are the ones that are at risk.
Alberto, how is your family doing? Who are you hunkered down with?
I'm here with my wife and my 2 daughters. We've been hunkered down here. We've been doing well. We lost power and cable about an hour ago, so I was surprised that the electricity stayed up so long.
And you feel safe?
Absolutely, I feel safe.
Well, we know about 3/4 of Miami-Dade is without power, and the numbers are certainly higher in Broward. Just tremendous numbers of outages now at 488,000. Actually, fewer outages, but we'll see what the percentage comes out to be. Quite a few outages there. And Alberto, we just wish you well, and we thank you very much. We want you to get inside where it's safe, all right?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And he's in the Rio Vista neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. Once again, Fort Lauderdale was under that tornado warning. We had word that the tornado had touched down. Someone spotted it near I-595 near Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. So, boy, this is a touch and go situation. And look at that video there. I believe that's also from the Rio Vista neighborhood. Alberto took that video for us and sent it back to us. But then we cannot forget about this here, Lori. This happened in Fort Lauderdale as well, along Powerline Road and Sunrise Boulevard.
And we want to let you know Fort Lauderdale police are actively working this now. No doubt they will have our video and they'll be able to see who was involved in all this. These were both Simon's shoe wear. We were actively right there when these young people broke through the glass, started jumping into this store, looting the store, running off, as you see, even with our van and cameras, taking video of them, trying to hide their faces a little bit, but not really, and leaving with as many expensive sneakers as they could find.
And that was not the only store they broke into. A Foot Locker nearby in Fort Lauderdale was broken into as well. Again, this is something police have urged the public not to do, and they are investigating, as they told us, and they are actively looking into both of these crimes. But Arsenal Sabovic was right there, and that did not deter these guys from going into the store here, stealing whatever they could. Some not even hiding their faces, not even wearing a shirt in some cases, but running off with expensive shoes. Once again, a Foot Locker in Fort Lauderdale, not far from Powerline Road.
And in that case, they went right through a shutter. They broke through one of the shuttered doors. Just horrible to see. But do know that Fort Lauderdale police are actively working on it, and they are on it.
Here's a look at Florida City right now, one of the areas that I believe much of the bad weather has already gone by Florida City. They are in good shape. Southwest Miami-Dade, pretty good shape, although you're still going to feel those tropical storm force winds of at least 35 miles an hour, in some cases up to 40, 50 miles an hour. But our Terrell Tournay is live there, and he has a look at what's been going on. Terrell.
Well, Calvin, the rain has lightened up a bit here. The wind, it is still heavy at times, but we have transitioned from that point where we were seeing those sustained hurricane force winds. That was pretty much the entire morning, but I can tell you right now that the wind has leveled off a bit. It is still strong at times, and that is those strong tropical force storm winds that are still rolling through the area. And if you take a look at the parking lot, just across the way over there, you notice some pooling on the pavement. You may be able to see it, but this is some flooding that is happening right out there. Take a look just up. I don't know if you can tell on US 1, it appears to be some military vehicles rolling down US 1. This is southbound on US 1. This is headed towards the Florida Keys because we know Florida City is really the last stop in Southwest Miami-Dade before you get to the Florida Keys. But the weather here has really been very, very dangerous, and that is why we are still in our protected area here. We are covered, protected by walls on both sides, glass behind my photographer, which is just outside of the camera's view. But every so often we hear this loud rumble, and we all look up because we don't know exactly where it is coming from. But that is more proof that the winds and these gusts that are still coming through the area are still doing some damage to a lot of the property and, of course, a lot of the trees in the area. A lot of downed trees that we can see up and down US 1. We know that there are a number of downed power lines as well. Our power is out. It went out in the very early morning hours, and even some businesses that are nearby over here, we watched as the strong, intense